Hello there. There has been an interesting and important question that's come up in our organization during a sales and marketing meeting last week, and I thought we needed to sit down and address it. And the question is Adams Technology Group a high-performing organization? And in this video, I'm going to break it up into several parts, but we're going to talk about what we do as a company, and I'm going to let you be the judge of whether or not we're high performance. So the framework is going to be, I shouldn't say framework, but the organization of the video is going to be this. I'm going to give you a little bit of context into the sales and marketing meeting because I think that sets the bookends about what we're going to be talking about. So this is going to be a little bit longer video, just so we're clear, but we're going to try to break it up so you can take it in pieces. But I think it's important because I think it really speaks to what Adams Technology Group does, what I'm building, what we're building, what kind of services we're providing our clients, who we consider to be high performing. So it'll be methodology and framework. And the top set of that, we're going to talk about culture, because without our culture, you can't have that. So everything that I'm going to talk about today is top down. It all begins with me. When you partner or become a client of ATG, this is what we do and what we're delivering all day, every day. It is very consistent. And when I talk about methodology and or the framework, we are not going to be talking about, absolutely positively not going to be talking about revenue or market share or profitability or any business metrics or any KPIs. This is on the methodology side. These are really like non-technical, soft skills. They're subjective. It's the hardest part, in my opinion, next to culture, that we get to work through. On the framework, we get into, I guess what we talk about, hard skills, the technical stuff, and more of the objective things, processes, and things that go into that. But it isn't methodology or framework. It's methodology and the framework. Our framework doesn't work without our methodology. And the framework and the methodology doesn't work without the culture that we are intentionally trying to create. So that's the context of the video. So let me give you the backstory. So Charles, who's one of our account executives inside sales, recently went to a Boise City Chamber event and had a good experience. Right, we like to go and we participate in those, meet and greet, say hi, get our name out there, et cetera, et cetera. But we've went through a lot of change and growth over the last year. I mean, you could argue we're always changing, right? And we're going to talk about that in the video, which will make sense to you. But in February of 2024, we made a pretty significant shift in our branding and kind of like who we wanted to be as a company. For those of you who don't know, in 2018, we launched Smatotech, right? That's our IT professional services division. And we ran that for a long time and we're still running it, obviously. But there was a book that I read, and we're going to talk about right here, by Dan Sullivan, that really just punched me like in the face and knocked me out, like cold cocked. And it really sat down and made me think and said, all right, we got to make some changes. We're more mature. So we went through a whole branding, which you guys have seen. If you go to adamstechnology.group, you can see all the new branding. And all of those words on that website I wrote. And we'll talk about why that's important. There are no stock photos. We hired Ebony, came in, flew in from Las Vegas. She's fantastic, shot all of her photos. Why do we do that? Because it's authentic. Because I believe that in this day and age, people can say and do anything, right? And that makes what we do, right, and articulate what we do hard, right? Because words matter, pictures matter, what we see, what we do. So we went through a big change. And so Charles came back from the chamber event. I asked him, I said, how'd it go? And, and I get into specifics, which we'll talk about, asking great questions. But I said, okay, when people ask you what you do, what do you tell them? And he had a hard time articulating what it is that we do. So he and I, and Parrish to some extent, sat down and we hammered this out because we got to get this right. We do a lot of amazing things, but there are things that we do that are hard to articulate. So, 6 or 7 hours in multiple days into this thing, this is what we came up with. We discover and remediate IT risks and vulnerabilities for high-performing companies. Not companies that are growing, not companies that are, but high-performing. Now, why do I say high-performing? Because there's a lot of things that high-performing companies need that we provide. And I asked a question, can we say that we're a high-performing company, right? High-performing athletes work with other high-performing people. Okay, so if we're saying that we work with high-performing companies and organizations or firms, whatever you want to call them, are we that other high-performing company? And Parrish gave me some, I wouldn't say pushback, but gave me some feedback and said, listen, I think it's a little bit, I don't think you can call yourself high-performing. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Why not? And arrogant, egotistical, whatever. And it's, subjective, to be honest. And I said, okay, fair enough. But here's all the things that we do. So this is what led to this video is I'm going to take you through our culture, take you through our framework, through our methodology, take you through a framework. I'm going to give you some information. I'm going to let you decide. But I think the answer is unequivocally apparent. And so that's what we want to be around. We want to be around high-performing companies. We've built our operation around being highly available, highly reliable, and highly skilled. If you go to our website, that is right there. And then if you go down below, that's what our customers say about us. So there's already the testimonials, but we're gonna get into the nuts and bolts. So, everything that we're going to talk about, both on our cultural framework and methodology, I'm going to reference these books, and because it provides the context. I think one of the things that people do is they do a lot of reading. We need to stop reading. We need to start thinking. We need to stop reading and start thinking. These books, right? So there are 4 types of books in my life. There are the books that are tied to methodology. There are books that are tied to the framework. There are the books that I haven't read that people have recommended to me. And then there are the books that I started into and they're just not going to work, right? I've already read that from another author, or they're trying to put some spin on it or whatever. So those are the 4 types of books. You can see through all of these books that I've read them multiple times. And I think that is what provides the depth and the merit for me, is the fact that I continue to go back to them because they have such profound, I don't need to be profound topics. I don't need to be reading more. What I need to do is I need to continue to implement these practices, right? So those are the kind of the 4 books. And then everything, the culture is probably more tied into methodology. I pull it out and talk about it in the context of this video just to make it apparent the fact that I'm driving the culture, right? In order for us to do what we need to do, it starts with the culture. So that's kind of the context behind the question. Can ATG call itself a high-performing organization when we help high-performing organizations, right? like I said, athletes, high-performing athletes are want to be surrounded by other high-performing athletes. They do not want to be around mediocre athletes. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the context behind this. So let's talk about culture. Culture is the top of what Jim Collins in The Flywheel, this is a short little book, talks about the flywheel. The top of our flywheel, right, which we're turning every day, right? And the flywheel is the big process. It's all these things that need to happen that we turn. And the flywheel starts out, maybe you don't know cars, but they're in cars. It starts out and it's heavy to turn. But as you turn and you gain momentum, that becomes easier for that flywheel to turn. So in this book, there's the Cleveland Clinic flywheel. There's the Amazon flywheel. You can do flywheels for different departments. We're actually going to go through that for our technical services team, go through it to our technical service solutions team, probably our fulfillment team, and really get clear on what we do here. But one of the things that sits at the top is we create and invest in a culture that empowers a person to grow both as a human and as a technician. Okay. Everything that I'm going to talk about from here on out, that has to happen. You have to create it, and more importantly, you have to continue to invest in it, right? We invest a lot into our culture. That's everything that is through those doors and out there is part of our culture. It's what you see, it's what you hear, and it's what you feel, right? Both from the employees getting out of the car, walking across the parking lot, and walking to their desk. As soon as they walk through that doors, right, this is the culture. So in Jim Collins, kind of has a great quote. It is getting the right people on the bus, getting the wrong people off the bus, and getting those right people into the right seats. Wholeheartedly, that is a majority of what our time here is spent, because that is part of the culture, and we're willing to invest in it. It takes us anywhere. The last hire we just brought on for our technical services team, kind of entry-level position, took us 6 months to find him. Why is that? Because we're trying to find the right person. It's too expensive for us not to make that hire right, and we're going to get into what that looks like. So the other kind of really cool quote out there is Jim says, "Fire bullets and then cannonballs." And that just means the fact that, listen, we got to try some of these things out. Once we get it fired out, then we, fire off the cannonball, and we really make, kind of the shift. So Jim Collins, Good to Great, and then The Flywheel. Excellent book on where that is. The other thing about culture really comes down to mindset. And this is the book by Dr. Dweck, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, how we can learn to fulfill our potential. Written for parenting, business, school, and relationships. There are two types of mindsets that she talks about here. One is the growth mindset, and one is the evil fixed mindset. She's got a section in here which I think is really important, which she calls the CEO disease. This is like long-term strategy versus short-term strategy. CEOs face a dilemma. They can choose short-term strategies that boost the company's stock and make themselves look like heroes. Or they can work for long-term improvement, risking Wall Street's disapproval as they lay the foundation for the health and growth of the company over the long haul. Building a culture is the long haul. And it's hard. Think about, some of these CEOs, right? Lee Iacocca, what did he do, right? Failed. Short-term strategy. Great for investors, terrible for the employees, terrible for customers. Carly Fiona at HP was another one. They talk about here and what Albert Dunlap, I don't know him. I didn't study him in school. Did at Sunbeam. But what Lou Gerstner did when he went to IBM, Wall Street wanted him fired, but it took time for him to turn around that company, and IBM flourished, right? I think that's the power of culture. It's a long-term strategy. And culture just isn't like, having a cafe and having, your vision statement up on the wall and all this other bullshit, right? Culture is much more than that. And we're going to talk about that and what we do to create that culture. But the other thing in mindset that I really thought was this notion of praise and feedback. And one of these great quotes is, we need to stop saying you must be really smart or talented. And so let me just give you a little bit of context around this. And for you parents, this is really powerful. And for you managers and the executives, we need to be really careful, at least with the young people, about how we're rewarding and praising effort. So the context is Dr. Dweck did a study with 100 students, mostly early adolescents. We first gave each student a set of 10 fairly difficult problems from a nonverbal IQ test. They mostly did pretty well on these, and when they finished, we praised them, right? So there are two control groups here. The first group, we praised some of the students for their ability. They were told, quote, "Wow, you got 8, right? Right, 8 out of 10. That's a really good score. You must be smart at this." They were in the "you're so talented" control group. The other group we praised was, quote unquote, "Wow, you got 8 right. That's a really good score." Right? First two sentences are the same. Here's what's changed. You must have worked really hard. Now, those people were made to feel that they had the first group was made to feel that they had some special gift. They were praised for doing what it takes to succeed. Both groups were exactly equal to begin with. So for us, I think it's just, a really good point, and you need to read the chapter as a parent about what we're praising our kids for. We need to be praising our kids for effort. And we're going to talk about effort. We'll get to Dr. Duckworth's book, Grit. But it is absolutely, culture is about a mindset. It's about a growth mindset. The other thing from a mindset book is, this is Marley Adams' book. Dr. Dweck talks about growth versus fixed mindset. Marley talks about learner versus judger. All right. Same thing, different notion. But the thing that I liked about this was when she talks about culture. It is, in today's world, we need to be adaptive and resilient, able to move quickly and strategically. And I believe a learner or growth culture equips us to deliver on that. The only thing of real importance that leaders do is to create and manage culture. If you do not manage culture, it manages you. And you may not even be aware of the extent to which this is happening. We manage culture here. I manage culture here. It is imperative. I think it's also interesting to understand culture doesn't happen overnight. We started this group in 2018. It's going to be 2026. What is that? 7 years? 7 years. This is our third office. The culture that we had in the beginning has grown to what we have now. And we're working on what ATG 3.0 looks like. That is what I'm managing. I'm always looking, right? I want the culture has to be in alignment for our framework and our methodology. So that is kind of like culture. Without culture, our framework and our methodology doesn't work. Either you're creating the culture or the culture is creating you. Okay, let's talk about part 2, methodology. These are the books that are tied to methodology. Methodology it's the mindset. They're soft skills, right? You heard soft skills, hard skills. These are soft skills. These are what we call non-technical, very subjective. But I think we're going to put some context around them that are going to be really, really powerful. So, number 1 in our methodology is what I would consider the relentless pursuit of excellence. Horst Schulze wrote the book Excellence Wins. This was a fantastic book. Without this book, that absolutely positively 100% that culture out there would not exist. We would not be the company we are today without me taking what Mr. Schulze has done and emulated in the Ritz-Carlton. I mean, if that is what we want to be, the Ritz-Carlton of managed IT companies. And I think some people would say that we are. I'm not going to say that we are, but we're striving to be, always constantly striving to be. So I would just say excellence wins, but I add always. Excellence always wins. There is no downside to becoming, to working in excellence. Now, excellence is not necessarily perfect, but I'm not going to kind of get into that. We spend time here from a customer service standpoint. We spend more time talking about customer service than we really do with sales and marketing. Sales and marketing comes from great customer service. We talk about our customer service in our sales meetings, and we talk about it in all of our marketing. So Horst, in this book, there's some really powerful things in here. From a customer service, the people you serve want 3 main things. First, they want a product or a service, in our case a service, or other outputs with no defects. Second, they want timeliness, right? And here's the thing for us. They want timeliness. The third thing they want the person whom they are dealing with to be nice to them. How many times have we got on the phone with someone that you're just wondering, like, do they like their job? Are they trying to help me? I was just telling Parrish, I went over to get coffee early in the morning, and I'm not sure that barista really wanted to be there. And so, what does that say about the culture? I mean, did I get the best cup of coffee that she had? Right? And the service was slow. I'll be honest with you. So the first thing, they want a product or a service, others without defect. This really is not about firewalls, servers, how we migrate from, the premise to the cloud. This isn't about, M365. Those are products, and we deliver great products. Don't get me wrong, right? But you can go get a firewall, you can go get a server from Dell. There's all kinds of different outlets to get that stuff. The thing for us is the service without defects. We have two ways to communicate with our organization. You can pick up a phone, or you can send us an email. And the service for us is we do that really, really well at a high level. We call it 329. The second thing is they want timeliness, and this kind of goes back to this 329. But we do everything quickly. We turn around quotes in 24 hours. How many times are we waiting for, we say yes, yeah, we want to pursue this, we need a quantity, this is what the scope looks like, get me a quote so I can look forward to it. Some people take forever for that. That's not timeliness. So our quoting process, our fulfillment team, our sales team, our technical services team, our solutions team, right, we turn around quotes in 24 hours. Now, some of the bigger solutions we can't do in 24 hours because it inherently takes, but the shorter stuff, right, there's a standard for us in 24 hours. We respond to every ticket in 29 minutes. We answer every phone call within 3 rings. Those are standards, right? And then the last thing is we make sure that we get in the right people answering the phones. Our onboarding, getting back to the culture, our onboarding process is the fact that we need to be we use the DISC assessment around here for leadership matrix or personality matrix, and we're looking whether or not they're controllers, supporters, analyzers, or promoters. Okay? The people answering the phones and sitting on our technical services team, right? Notice that I don't say help desk. We are not a help desk. We are a technical services team. If you go out there, and we're working on this visual too, if you go look at other companies and their help desks, that is not out there. There's not a big cubicle farm and, people with shitty chairs and, 2 monitors and a crappy headset and bright lights, or that's a call center. That's a traditional help desk. I am not going to insult our team by calling them a help desk. We've renamed that. That was part of the rebranding that we did in the spring. That is a technical services team. So on that technical services team, everything starts with an email or a phone call. We need people who are naturally supporters. People sitting on our technical services team enjoy helping people. That's where they get their joy, right? So we got to get that. We got to get that right. So that's part of the culture. One of the things that did I cover everything on that one? Yeah, customer service. All right. The most important thing new employees can learn, this is Horst talking again, is not how to tighten a bolt or log into the network or find the first aid kit on the wall. It is rather to grasp who we are, what our dreams are, and why we exist as an organization. Okay. If you can see these books over here at the top, right? So when we go through our hiring process, I said it can take up to 6 months. We're not looking for everyone. We're looking for the right one. And we will continue to look at that. Now, we've become pretty proficient at that, to be honest. We ask pretty direct questions, and we can kind of fish a lot of that stuff out on the pre-interview. And there's 3 interviews. There's the phone interview, there's the non-technical interview with me, and then there's the technical interview for the 3rd one. And we're using those time just to try to understand who the person is. So when we onboard, right, and I think in here, actually in Bob's book, it talks about onboarding. But the first interaction that we have with our employee as soon as we hire them is we go through all the HR stuff. Of course, they got to fill out their paperwork. We know how to pay them, and they got a employee manual and all this other stuff. But they're given 4 books by Sam Parker. Smile and Move, Cross the Line, 211 to 212, and Smile and Move. Did I get all 4 of those? Yeah, 212 to Extra Degree. They get those 4 books. They have a week to read those books. Why do they read the books? Because those 4 books, and I would recommend grabbing those 4 books, speak absolutely positively to our culture, who we are, what we do, and how we do it. I can't do that. I don't need to do that because Sam's already done it. And he does a fantastic job. The thing that I love about those books is they're short. And they're large print for some of those people, right? So I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of good stuff. They take notes on them. We review them together, one-on-one. They have a week to do that. They also get to start the memorization about our vision statement and our mission statement and our core pillars. And I'm not going to go into that, but if you go to our website, you'll see them. They're a core part of that. So once they get done with that and they get onboarding, they get a 4th book, which is fantastic. And that's Leadership and Self-Deception, written by the Arbinger Institute. which is right here. And they have a little bit more time to read that. And then they sit down and we have a conversation about that. Why do we do that? Because it sets the tone for the culture, right? This is everyone has done this. It puts everyone on the same page. It's pretty fantastic. The vision statement, technology is what we do, is not who we are. That came inspired coming directly out of this book. It's important for everyone to kind of be on the same page. I'm going to kind of get back to this one a little bit later, but there's a great quote in here. Innovation is often squelched in the name of tradition. We don't like industry standards. Industry standards, in my opinion, are not pro-client. Case in point, Shez, our director of client operations, client services, will always kind of, come back to me with kind of what the Reddit forums are saying and, some other information. And I always take that with a grain of salt because I'm really trying to understand, okay, is that pro-client or is that pro-organization, pro-vendor? So innovation is key, but it can be totally killed by tradition. The little bit in here from Horst is kind of what I talked about with vision statements. You have to remind yourself and others of these words constantly. They have to be alive inside your soul. You don't mind repeating them again and again at the start of meetings, in casual conversations, on the shop floor, in the office, in the break room, because they are so important. You say it because you and your people are living it. We spent a lot of time putting together our vision statement. Technology is what we do. It's not who we are. That is bigger than anything, any firewall that we sell, any cloud migration that we do. That is, we are humans. And for me, I want my team to be the best versions of themselves that they can be, right? That is constant. That's part of our culture. That's kind of where that vision statement comes from. And then we're already reevaluating. In fact, we've been floating some stuff around here. Our mission statement, Smatotech's mission statement was, we keep your computers and internet running fast and secure. Powerful. But we've evolved since that. So we're wordsmithing. Not that secure is not going to be in there. Not that some other words are going to be in there. But we have matured, right? So we need to retool that. So we're going through that right now. And then we have our 4 pillars. So everyone in our organization knows exactly what our vision statement is. It comes up often. It answers a lot of questions. So does our mission statement. So do our pillars. It is the North Star. Everyone is on that same page. And when we begin meetings, right, when the technical services team has their meetings, they will popcorn around and ask what our pillar number 1 is, what pillar number 4 is, what's our vision statement, what's our mission statement. Everyone understands that because that's what it is. And so we spend a lot of time around that. That creates the thing here. So slogans and vision statements on a wall don't work. Belief systems. Our culture is kind of our belief system and part of our methodology. So that's the relentless pursuit of excellence. I can't say enough about us wanting to be in excellence in the mindset. Number 2, I didn't know exactly how to layer this or title this, but I just used Power and Perseverance from Angela Duckworth. This is a great, fantastic book. Every parent should read this. It was a mind blower. My buddy Matt gave this to me a couple 3 years ago, and once again, you can tell by all the notations in here I recommend this. I've got copies of this book. I hand it out. So Power and Perseverance or Constant Innovation. it is all about maximum effort. It's about intention. It's about stamina. It's about capacity. It is being resilient in the constant fight against mediocrity, against business standards, right? Everyone is dragging us down, right, to this mediocrity level of customer service. That's not where we want to be. So Angela, there's a lot of good stuff in here. It's hard for me to pick this out, but one of the first things I thought was really interesting was her definition of capacity. And it reads like this. The human individual lives usually far within his limits. He possesses powers of various sorts which he habitually fails to use. He energizes below his maximum, and he behaves below his optimum. One of the things I do here is I believe iron sharpens iron. And one of my gifts is the fact that I see things in people that they don't see in themselves. And that's kind of what Jim talks about, is getting the right people on the bus, but it's also getting the right people in the right seats. I love that about my job. It really is a gift. As a soccer coach for a long, long time, I could see things in athletes and move them around the field, and we had great success. But one of the things that we're doing here, right? How do I sharpen the edge? All right. How am I creating more capacity? How am I pushing the edge of our technical solutions team, which is the brainiacs, right? Well, one of the things that we're going to be doing is Adams Technology is making a heavy push into the security. You call it cybersecurity, you call it network security. We just call it security space. And I've decided that we're going to go through this SOC 2 compliance. And why are we doing that? Well, I can tell you why we're not doing it. We're not doing it to chase government work, because that's not what we do. I don't know too many government organizations that are high performance. No, I mean, let's just be real about that. But when I am doing it is because it's going to make us better. It's going to make our system admins, network, security, server, cloud, fulfillment better, because it's going to put everything that we do under a microscope. It is a full audited compliance offering. It's expensive, both from a financial standpoint, where we have to pay auditors, and we're actually going to pay a firm to help us take us through that. But it's going to make us better. And if it makes us better, it's going to make our clients better. We don't know what we don't know, okay? No one says that we need to be SOC 2 compliant to become Master Security Solutions Provider, MSSP, right? I'm a big acronym guy, but that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But it's going to make us better. It's going to make our system admins. It's going to make our technical services team. It's going to make everyone better. It's going to make me better. And so that's what we're doing to push people to the end. It's about capacity. People have a significant more amount of capacity than what they realize. And we're going to talk about this when we get into part of the framework. I really like her formula for achievement. It's maximum effort. If we're going to do anything, we need to go, all out. A lot of kids, a lot of adults have great talent. If you take talent, and this is what Angela talks about, if you take talent and you multiply by effort, you get skill. And you can have a lot of success with skill, right? But she takes it to another level, and she says, if you take that skill and then you apply effort, that's when you gain achievement. And that really hit home with me. And I talk about this with my boys all the time. I talk about it with the staff, right? You may be naturally technology savvy, but you got to continue to apply effort to get that done. You got to want to be better. And so that formula for achievement I thought was fantastic. Even if you just pick that up, take the photocopy of the book, it'd definitely be worth it. I also like this section where we talks about grit. Grit isn't just working incredibly hard. That's only part of it. Well, for one thing, there are no shortcuts to excellence. Mic drop. There are no shortcuts to excellence. Developing real expertise, figuring out really hard problems, it takes time. Longer than most people imagine. And then, you've got to apply those skills and produce goods or services that are valuable to the people. The question I have here on the book is, what is ATG's hard problem? We are in the business of customer service. Technology is what we do. It's not who we are. The business that we're in is in the business of customer service. We are not in the business of selling firewalls or servers or switches or access points or network attached storage. You can get that anywhere. What our hard problem is, how do we continue to grow and maintain 329? That is the hard part of our organization. And we continue to attack it. Everything that we do is, from a process standpoint, is around 329. The vendors that we choose, we can't think about this. If we have a vendor, right, that provides a great service, right? Maybe it's a piece of software, or maybe it's a firewall or a piece of equipment, and they have terrible customer service. Is that in alignment with where we want to be as a company? Absolutely not. That breaks our alignment. That breaks our framework. It's not in alignment with our methodology. So we got to go find a new product that does that. And so the hard thing that we do is absolutely not programming a firewall or migrating, 2012 to 2025 or 2016 to 25 or migrate. That's not the hard thing that we do. The hard thing that we maintain is the high level of customer service. The challenge for us is, how do we continue to define highly available, highly reliable? And of course, we have to be highly skilled. So that is kind of the hard problem that we continue to attack. And that takes grit. It takes time. It's constant evaluation. I thought that there's a little how gritty are you quiz. I took it. In case you're wondering, I was a 4.4, so I was sitting about the 90 percentile. So I guess I am gritty. That's good. The next big thing is, I thought her definition of practice. I wrote on the front of my book, I say this with my boys all the time. Practice is not going out and shooting 100 free throws. Anyone can go out and shoot 100 free throws. The intentional practice is going out and making 100 free throws. You see the difference in mindsets? Mind-blowing. Trey, you need to go out and listen. You don't need to shoot 100 times. You need to make 100 goals. You need to make 100 and hit that pop can in the corner, right? We have to practice with intention. So I thought that whole section in there was fantastic. They have this, I didn't know this word, this Japanese word called Kaizen. The definition of Kaizen is resisting the plateau of arrested development. Its literal translation is continuous improvement. We have got to be in continuous improvement. We've got to be continuously, we got to be in that feedback loop. So that's constant innovation. Maximum effort, intention. Angela goes through all that stuff. That's a crazy powerful book, both as a business leader and as a dad, right, for me, especially with kids that are pretty active. Whether they're band, my kids are athletes. They get their lack of musical prowess from me. And, so The last thing we're going to talk about from a methodology standpoint is, I had a hard time giving this a name too, but it really is the ability for us to have deep conversations inside our organization. Now, a lot of people will just come out and call it communication. And I think that's probably fair, but I think it's bigger than communication. I think we do a lot of, you got to pause that out. I think we do a lot of communicating that really isn't communicating. It needs to be deeper. And so I said deep conversations. Deep conversations are personal. You need to learn to be able to have deep conversations that are just conversations, and there's nothing behind it, right? So there's this, a statement is just a statement. You're the person that puts the energy around the statement. And either you can, have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset or a learner or a judger mindset around how you take that information. I provide a lot of information, a lot of feedback back to people, and it's just feedback. It isn't that I hate you. It isn't that I don't like you, but it might be the fact that you're not performing at the level that I think you can perform at. You can perform better. How do we get you to perform better? So it's the ability to have, maybe hard conversations might be another one, but I say deep. I think it goes back to, to the praise coming from how we praise our kids from Dr. Dweck, et cetera, and our employees. And so Mara Lee wrote, in order to have deep conversations, I think you need to learn how to ask great questions. And one of the things in here is the power of great questions. With our questions, we make the world. Questions open our minds, our eyes, and our hearts. With our questions, we learn, connect, and create. We are smarter, more productive, and able to get better results. We shift our orientation from fixed opinions, fixed mindset, judger mindset, and easy from fixed opinions and easy answers to curiosity, thoughtful questions, and open-minded conversations, lighting the way to collaboration, exploration, discovery, and innovation. Innovation is definitely part of our methodology, of course. The best way to solve a problem is to come up with better questions. That's so true. Sometimes we have conversations, and are we really asking the right questions to get the right answers? I mean, think about the generic questions, how was your day today? How was work today? You go home, how was work today? Kids come home, how was school today? What did they say? It was good, it was fine. Those are not deep, meaningful conversations. You need to ask targeted questions. Now, for me, is if I ask someone and they know if anyone in the office says good, people will chime in and say, what does good mean? Right? What does fine mean? And I want to know, tell me what good means, and then we can have a meaningful conversation. So, Marley does a really good job in here, taking us through questions. I think it does, tie into culture, but in this chapter, and she talks about, in today's world, we need to be adaptive and resilient, able to move quickly and strategically, and I believe a learner, right, growth culture equips us to deliver on that. There's a quote by Edward Sheen I've always liked, and it says this: the only thing of real importance that leaders do is to create and manage culture, right? We talked about that before. If we're not managing the culture, it's managing us. It's all about having those conversations. And yeah, you got to be able to ask great questions. You got to be able to communicate at a kind of a deeper level. The The Art of Powerful Questions. This was given to me by a very intelligent person, Donna, and I've just marked it up. I think the front side of this, I'm just going to read. This is the problem why we have, because we're not teaching our kids to ask great questions, is asking good questions. If asking good questions is so critical, why don't most of us spend more of our time and energy on discovering and framing them? One reason may be that much of the Western culture and North America society in particular focuses on having the right answer rather than discovering the right question. Our educational system focuses more on memorization and rote answers than on the art of seeking new possibilities. It's one of those things like, how was work today? How did your meeting go? Right? Those are not thought-provoking questions. There's a level, and I like this in here, an uncomfortable feeling with not knowing. Quick fixes and an attachment to black and white either or thinking is not innovative. It stymies innovation. Leaders believe that they are being paid for fixing problems, right? How many of us just run around trying to fix problems all day long? Leaders believe that they are being paid for fixing problems rather than for fostering breakthrough thinking. Between our deep attachment to the answer, any answer, and our anxiety about not knowing. I think that's so true. Great questions open the door for dialogue, discovery, and insight. Bad questions lead to bad answers. The other, I got all these things thought about here was great questions come from curiosity. You have to be curious. If you're curious, you're going to be, you're going to ask better questions. We don't foster curiosity, right? We are, by the book, mediocrity, society is pushing us down there. Listen, don't ask questions, just do as I say. The feedback is important. This input enables you to continually reassess a landscape you're operating in, revealing new questions for exploration. Innovation is tied to great questions. I think I got one. I thought this was really important too. Leaders must become connectors of both people and ideas. The ability to facilitate working conversations, deep conversations that enhance trust and reduce fear. You got to have trust. In order to have deep conversations, people need to be able to trust you, that you're not going to attack them with their answers or hold it against them and do all that stuff. So that right there is the methodology. That's a lot. The other thing I want to say is both with the methodology and our framework, which we're going to talk about next. I was just talking to Sue in HR, kind of my admin assistant. I can't count how many hours I have in that. I can guarantee you that it didn't happen overnight. I can guarantee you that I didn't have the answers in 24 hours. It's a process. You got to start somewhere, but you need to have a methodology. You got to have something that you continually go back. You got to find your books. You need to stop reading and start implementing. I mean, how many times do we go into, I always said this, when I go into an office, I would look to see what the books that they're reading. And when I see, a person with a lot of personal development, coaching books, and et cetera, first thing I think after the quote that I read is the fact that you don't need to read, 10 different books. Most of the theories are already there. What you're lacking is the implementation. And I think that's one of the things that when you come into our organization, these are just not words. I mean, you will feel that. Our clients will tell you that you feel that. This is the methodology of which we operate at. And it's going to change. It's going to adapt and it's going to evolve. But with us, the relentless pursuit of excellence, with the methodology for us for constant innovation and the power and perseverance and the ability for us to have deep conversations. You tell me where the downside to that is. There's nothing but upside. Once again, our mission is technology is what we do. It's not who we are. I want my team, my individuals, the entire staff to be the best versions of they can be. If they're the best version of what they can be, who benefits from that? They benefit as husbands and wives. They benefit as fathers and mothers. They benefit as being better friends. They benefit from being stronger in their community. Like, there's no downside to that. And that is where my time and my energy is primarily put in from the methodology. Everything is with intention. We are not shooting 100 free throws. We are out making 100 free throws. So that's what I have on methodology. The next thing we're going to talk about is, which I'm super excited about, is the framework.